right length. So you flip it over.
Yeah, you want to go for a walk? If you saw the winds we had the other night, you'd be amazed how well, or that this thing is still standing. So I'm really happy with it, really impressed. Man, I can't wait for the guys to come back and finish this. Hopefully this quarantine's over soon. Got an offer from what do you call it, a greenhouse company to donate a greenhouse to my wife and I for the cabin. And just looking at the options here, so the one garden area that you see in the high part of the property is just completely disconnected from the cabin here, and I like it that way. It's a kind of a separate place, secure place, less known place that I can keep the workshop and that garden and the chickens. Right here closest to the cabin I've got a couple of the gardens, but the issue with this forested lot is not only is it fully treed, but I've got a lot of topography, a lot of elevation changes throughout, so it's hard to find open flat areas with deep soil that's not bedrock. Typically the high parts are actually rock and it can't grow on them, so it's hard to find a big enough area. So the one area that I've started for gardening, or for the big garden, is probably the biggest, flattest spot and the deepest soils. So that's why the garden's in that spot, and it's a good spot also. It's fairly level and flat for the workshop. And then now that I'm doing all that stuff, the chickens make sense to be there. Now right here, although I might put a second chicken coop right here close to the cabin for winter, where I'm less where I need to keep a closer eye on them. Anyway, point being that it's very hard to find spots for gardens, and the one that I have is open enough that I want quite a diverse garden there, and I need lots of sunlight. I don't want a greenhouse, for example, taking up all the space. I've got two other options right here. The creek is just too low down behind the cabin, and this is actually south. The creek is north of the cabin, and even though it's low and there's some flat areas down there because floodplain, and you know, levels off, fills in the gaps and everything, and you get all the soil washing down from the higher ground into that area. Problem is, being such a low spot on the north side of a hill, it doesn't get as much sunlight, and it's also extremely acidic. I wasn't able to grow anything down there last year. I'm going to try some acidic stuff there this year. We'll see how that does. But it's challenging. It's really challenging in the Canadian Shield to grow anything to begin with, and then adding the fact that it's a forest without big open clearings and fields and stuff makes it more challenging again. And all the bedrock that's and rock and small rocks that are in the ground as well make it challenging. So I've got the spot that I am growing the big garden. I've got this spot where I planted the small garden last year on the trail in. It's kind of a high point as well, and I've got this spot, which is actually where I almost built the camp originally. When I first bought the property, we talked about having a bushcraft camp right here, and I considered even the cabin being here. The reason is that it was a natural opening. Some trees had blown down and been cut down over the years, so all these raspberries were growing up here, which meant that there's some fertility here, deep enough soils, and also it's a fairly flat open spot. So I'm wondering if that greenhouse could go right here. I'd have to take out probably just these 3 trees right here, maybe 4. Sun comes up here, so it wouldn't be very destructive, although these are nice maples that are good, that I actually tap every year. But I've got lots of them, so it's not a bad option to actually put the greenhouse right here. And I've got a naturally low here, or spot down in here, which I've always been considering as a good spot to dig a pond, or to at least dig a well, or sort of a small catchment pond at least. And then I could draw water from that all summer long. So I've got a couple of options. It's actually one of the reasons I didn't move the forest kitchen over this way more, because this area does collect some water and then it flows down through there, and it creates some spring issues, like water issues in the spring. But if I get it up sort of here just above that, that could be a good spot just to dig a well, even maybe right here. Anyway, I like the possibilities here. I'm going to look at this a little bit closer, get my wife involved, and see if we think this makes sense. Might make sense to kind of do more right here. Have the greenhouse, have the chickens, and in the future when we do, or I do, have more people up here teaching courses and stuff, I think this could be the sort of the hub, and then the longhouse and other stuff up kind of up through there, winter camping, and then back through the crown land here. Anyway, I'm always thinking and always kind of working with weather, working with the environment, working with the sun and the forest, and the wildlife and everything, trying to integrate myself into this landscape properly and efficiently. It's always changing too. It's third spring now. Third spring here, and I've learned a lot about the property over the last 3 years. Nope, see there. No tally.
Super.
it.